cop harassed black woman. Had no idea. She's a world champion fighter. It was just past 10:30 p.m. on the east side of Atlanta when Keisha Monroe pulled into the empty parking lot of a 24-hour pharmacy. The night air was thick and humid, clinging to her like a second skin as she cut the engine of her black Dodge Durango. Her chest rose and fell in slow, controlled breaths. She had just come from her training facility, a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of the city, where for the past 4 hours she'd sparred until her knuckles were raw and her calves trembled with fatigue. The gym was her temple, her sanctuary. A place where no one knew her name beyond Coach K, and no one cared what titles she held. And that's exactly how she liked it. Wearing black joggers, a dark gray hoodie, and worn-out boxing shoes, she could have passed for any tired woman grabbing a bottle of water and some ibuprofen before heading home. Her natural hair was pulled into a tight puff at the crown of her head, and her face glistened with dried sweat. No makeup, no entourage. No press. Just Keisha, alone and anonymous in the quiet Georgia night. She stepped out of her car, slinging a large gym duffel over one shoulder, and started toward the automatic doors of the pharmacy. That's when she heard it, the low crunch of tires on asphalt. Her eyes flicked to the right. A police cruiser rolled into the lot slowly, headlights slicing through the darkness and fixing on her like a searchlight. She paused, letting out a breath, and reminded herself she hadn't done anything wrong. Still, her gut twisted. The cruiser came to a halt behind her car, partially blocking her exit. A tall, stocky officer stepped out, white, mid-40s, with the confident strut of someone who had never been questioned a day in his life. The name tag on his uniform read, Officer J. Tanner. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, eyeing her from top to bottom like she was a threat or a puzzle he didn't quite trust. Finally, he called out, "Evening, you live around here?" Keisha turned fully to face him, keeping her voice calm. "I live over on DeKalb Avenue. Just stopped by for some water. It's been a long day." Tanner walked closer, a smirk curling one side of his mouth. "This pharmacy's had a few break-ins lately. Late-night visitors make people nervous." "Well, I'm not people," she replied, letting her tone sharpen just slightly. "I'm just a woman getting a bottle of water." "You got ID?" "In the car." "Let's get it." She nodded and walked back toward her vehicle, hyper-aware of his footsteps following just a bit too close. When she opened her door and reached inside, she felt it, a hand pressing against her back. Not hard, not shoving, but firm, possessive. Her muscles tightened. She turned slowly, her eyes locking onto his. "You sure you're not carrying anything illegal in that big bag?" he asked, tilting his chin toward her duffel. Keisha took a breath, suppressing the urge to react. "No, I'm not." "Then you won't mind me taking a look." She stepped to the side, her voice low and clipped. "You don't have probable cause." Tanner's smirk faded for a second, but he recovered fast. "I've got reasonable suspicion. That's all I need. You look nervous." "I look tired." He moved closer, his hand brushing down her arm. "Relax, ma'am. No need to get hostile." "I didn't ask you to touch me." "You didn't say not to either." That was it. Before she could stop herself, her body responded on instinct. She stepped back, pivoted, and locked his wrist in a grip so tight he yelped. In one fluid motion, she twisted his arm behind his back, just enough to show control but not enough to harm. "Take your hand off me," she said, her voice like granite. "Hey, you're assaulting an officer!" he barked, trying to jerk free. She let him go. He stumbled back, hand flying to his holster. "Get on the ground!" he shouted, drawing his weapon. "Now!" Keisha raised both hands, stepping back slowly. "I didn't lay a finger on you until you put your hands on me." You think this is a joke? Tanner's eyes were wide now, something between rage and panic flickering behind them. You're under arrest. Turn around. Now! Two more officers were pulling into the lot. One of them, a younger man, rushed toward them as if responding to an ambush. She resisted, Tanner called out. Tried to take my weapon. That's a lie, Keisha said, louder now. He touched me first. I told him to back off. The new officer didn't seem to care. He yanked her arms behind her and slapped on the cuffs, forcing her down onto the hood of her own car. Check her bag, Tanner ordered. Keisha gritted her teeth, pressing her cheek to the cool metal as her hoodie was tugged tight across her shoulders. This wasn't the first time she had been misjudged. But this was different. This was a man using his badge as permission to violate. And he had no idea who he had just messed with. The third officer opened her duffel. Inside, he found a pair of hand wraps, a sweaty towel, 2 bottles of water, and a laminated gym ID. Name's Keisha Monroe, he said aloud, glancing up. Tanner froze. That name sounds familiar, he muttered. Before he could say more, the younger officer holding her phone blinked. Yo, wait a sec. This woman's on ESPN. You didn't just cuff Keisha Knockout Monroe. She's a world champion. Tanner's face turned pale, but the cuffs stayed on. Keisha turned her head slightly, her voice quiet but razor sharp. You just made a very big mistake. Behind a nearby bush, a teenage girl holding a phone whispered into a live stream. This cop just arrested Keisha Monroe. I'm filming everything. And the world was about to see what happens when a man with a badge thinks he's above consequence and grabs the wrong woman. The patrol car's back seat felt colder than Keisha expected. The cuffs bit into her wrists as she sat stiffly, watching the streetlights blur past the windows. Her jaw was clenched tight, but her mind wasn't racing. It was calculating. She didn't scream. She didn't plead. She didn't even ask for her phone, because she knew how this worked. She had seen this dance before. But this time, it was her name in the system, her face being smeared, and her story being twisted before it had even begun. In the front seat, Officer Tanner was still trying to play it cool, rubbing his wrist like he'd been assaulted by a wild animal. He kept talking into the radio like he was building a narrative one line at a time. Suspect became hostile, attempted to reach for my service weapon, required immediate restraint. Keisha shook her head. That's not what happened, and you know it. Save it, Tanner snapped, not even glancing back. You're lucky we didn't charge you with assault on an officer. I didn't touch you until you touched me. You initiated contact. Tanner let out a breathy laugh. Lady, you think you're special or something? I've seen your type. Mouthy. Think the rules don't apply. Keisha leaned forward slightly, her voice calm. You really don't know who I am, do you? Silence. The younger officer driving the car cleared his throat awkwardly. Actually, sir, I think she's telling the truth. That was her on ESPN last month. Keisha Monroe. She knocked out Vanessa Ortega in 39 seconds. Women's welterweight world champion. Tanner turned halfway in his seat, eyes narrowing. Aw, that's some kind of joke? No joke, the driver mumbled. My cousin trains at the same gym. Says she's like a ghost. Nobody sees her outside the cage, doesn't talk to press, doesn't even have social media. Keisha smiled faintly, despite the cuffs. Privacy is power. Tanner's face flushed deep red. I don't care if you're the Queen of England, you're still under arrest. For what? Keisha shot back. Getting water? Defending myself when you put your hands on me? I gave you a lawful order. You groped me. The car fell into silence again. The driver looked straight ahead, avoiding the mirror. When they pulled into the precinct parking lot, Reporters hadn't arrived yet, but they would. Keisha knew that much. Inside, everything was mechanical. Cold fluorescent lights, a fingerprint scanner, a metal detector. The cuffs came off only long enough to swap them for zip ties. Her gym bag was dumped onto a table and rifled through like trash. Her license was copied, and when her name came up, a young female officer behind the desk blinked twice and looked at the screen again. "You're that Keisha Monroe," she whispered. Tanner leaned over. "You know her?" The woman hesitated. "Yeah, everyone knows her. She's the undefeated champ, did the U.S. Olympic team, was on Time's cover last year." Tanner muttered under his breath and stepped away, pacing like he felt something slipping through his fingers. Keisha watched him with cold eyes. He thought his badge was a shield. He didn't realize it could become a spotlight. They put her in holding. No phone call, no lawyer, no explanation. Hours passed, maybe 5. Maybe 6. It was hard to tell with the lights buzzing constantly and no windows in the room. The walls were beige, peeling at the corners, and the bench bolted to the floor was just as unforgiving as the officers outside it. She didn't sleep, she didn't need to. She meditated. She waited, she prepared, and then the sound came. A door opening down the hall, quick footsteps, raised voices. The door to her holding cell opened, and a woman in a sharp navy suit stepped in, followed by 2 men in tailored coats and a very nervous-looking desk sergeant. "Keisha Monroe?" the woman asked. "That's me. I'm Erica Shaw, civil rights attorney. These 2 gentlemen are from the Legal Defense Fund. We're representing you now. Don't say another word to anyone in this building." Tanner appeared behind them, still trying to play it cool. "This isn't necessary," she resisted. "I followed protocol." Erica turned toward him with an icy smile. "Then you won't mind if we request the body cam footage? Or should I say, lack of it? Seems your camera was malfunctioning the entire time, according to the initial report." Tanner stiffened. "Technical errors happen." "So do lawsuits," she replied. The sergeant cleared his throat. "There's also something else." He handed Erica a phone. She glanced at it and her eyebrows shot up. "What is it?" Keisha asked. Erica turned the screen toward her. It was a live video. A teenage girl was talking into her phone, behind a bush. The footage showed Tanner approaching Keisha, placing his hand on her back, then dragging his fingers along her arm. The audio was fuzzy, but the tone was unmistakable. Then the clip caught the exact moment Keisha locked his wrist and pushed him back. It didn't look aggressive. It looked controlled. The video already had over 600,000 views. "I believe that's called evidence," Erica said, her voice calm but lethal. Keisha smiled again, this time wider. About time the world saw what happens when power gets too comfortable. The twist? The teenager who recorded it was the daughter of a local councilwoman, and she'd already tagged every major news outlet in Atlanta. By the time they released Keisha, quietly, with no charges filed, the press had descended on the precinct like bees to honey. Tanner's name trended by noon, and Keisha Monroe. She wasn't just a champion anymore. She was a reckoning. Keisha sat in the back seat of the black SUV as it rolled away from the Atlanta Police Department. The windows were tinted, shielding her from the camera flashes and shouts that echoed outside. Erica sat beside her, phone buzzing nonstop in her hand, and her face as calm as stone. The 2 attorneys up front barely said a word, but their silence carried weight. "That video blew up faster than I expected," Erica finally said, turning her phone toward Keisha. 3 million views in 6 hours. CNN wants a statement. TMZ too. I'm holding them off. "I'm not ready to talk," Keisha replied, her voice low. "Not yet. Not until I know how deep this goes." Erica gave a small nod. That's fair. But I need you to understand something. This isn't just a bad cop story anymore. You're a symbol now. People are watching you. I'm not interested in being a symbol, Keisha muttered, eyes still on the road. I just want accountability. Back at Erica's firm, a full crisis team was already assembled. Legal researchers, PR strategists, security consultants. They worked around the clock, gathering everything they could on Officer Tanner, his record, his body cam footage history, even the complaints he thought had disappeared. What they uncovered wasn't just unsettling, it was a blueprint of silence. 3 previous allegations of misconduct. All dismissed for insufficient evidence. 2 women had filed complaints that vanished from the public database, and 1 internal investigation had been closed just 2 weeks before Keisha's incident. Erica placed the files on the table in front of Keisha. They've been protecting him, she said. Internal Affairs flagged him months ago. The city buried it. Keisha's jaw tightened. How far up does this go? That's what we're trying to find out. Meanwhile, outside the law office, protests began forming. They weren't massive yet, but they were passionate. Women with signs that read, I believe Keisha and hands off our champions. Athletes began speaking out. A former boxing world champion tweeted, Imagine training your whole life to become the best, only to be treated like a criminal for buying water. But inside the city's power structure, denial ran deep. The police commissioner released a brief statement. We are reviewing the incident and respect the legal process. Officer Tanner is a decorated veteran with no proven history of misconduct. Keisha scoffed when she saw the clip on TV. No proven history, huh? Erica sighed. They always protect their own. But we're not alone. We just got a call from a whistleblower. Said he's seen Tanner do worse. Said he wants to talk. They arranged the meeting in a coffee shop on the edge of Decatur, a quiet spot where no one would recognize her. Keisha kept her hoodie up, sunglasses on. She looked like anyone else, just another woman trying to blend in. The man who walked in was in his early 50s, salt and pepper hair, plain clothes, eyes darting like he was always scanning the room. He sat down across from them without introducing himself. I can't stay long, he said. I worked internal affairs for 9 years. I reviewed Tanner's file. I saw the footage of your incident. But that's not what made me come forward. What did? Keisha asked. There's a pattern, he said quietly. Tanner's part of a unit. Off the books. They move officers around to keep them off the radar. When one gets too hot, they transfer him. Sometimes to another city, sometimes to a desk job that doesn't exist. They call themselves the Watch. Keisha exchanged a glance with Erica. A unit. Like, organized? The man nodded. You're not the first, and unless someone blows this open, you won't be the last. Why now? Erica asked. Because he messed up, the man replied, looking directly at Keisha. He touched the wrong woman, and this time, it's not going away quietly. Back at the office, Keisha sat alone in Erica's conference room. The lights dimmed. She stared out the window as her mind churned. Every instinct from years of fighting told her the same thing. This wasn't over. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number, no voicemail, just a text message. You should have stayed quiet. Keisha stared at it. Her fingers tightened around the phone. She stood, walked back to Erica, and handed it over. We need to go public, she said. I don't care if I'm ready. I'm not going to be intimidated. Not by Tanner, not by the Watch, not by anyone hiding behind a badge. Erica looked at her, proud but cautious. If we do this, there's no going back. There was never a back to go to, Keisha replied. That night, a quiet press conference was held in a secure venue. No stage, No flashing lights, just a camera, a microphone, and Keisha Monroe. Calm, collected, powerful. "They put their hands on me," she said. "Not because I broke a law, but because they thought they could. Because they thought no one would care. But the world is watching now, and if they're going to come for me, they'd better be ready, because I don't go down easy." By morning, the video had 10 million views. And the watch? They weren't hiding anymore. They were circling. It had only been 24 hours since Keisha's press statement went live, but the air already felt different. The city was buzzing, not with admiration, but with tension, coiled and waiting to snap. Protesters began camping outside City Hall. The hashtag #YouHandsOffKeisha trended globally. But inside Police HQ, another story was unfolding. Officer Tanner hadn't been suspended. He hadn't even been questioned. Instead, he was reassigned to a special task unit, buried under bureaucratic language and internal red tape. Erica stared at the report and shook her head. "They're protecting him. No surprise. But that unit, look at the signature. Lieutenant Briggs, you recognize that name?" Keisha furrowed her brow. "Briggs." Erica pulled out an old file, flipping pages until she landed on one with a blurred photo. "Here, this man shows up in 3 other misconduct cases over the last decade. All were shut down. Different precincts, same playbook. We think he's part of the watch." Keisha leaned forward, reading every line. Briggs had transferred 5 times in 9 years. Promotions each time. So they just keep moving them around. Like cleaning up a mess by pushing it under a different rug. Exactly. And here's the twist. They're preparing a public statement claiming your arrest was justified, that you resisted, that you were aggressive, and they're planning to release edited body cam footage. Keisha laughed, bitter and short. They're trying to rewrite history in real time. And unless we hit back harder, they'll succeed. Erica's phone rang, breaking the moment. She picked it up, listened, then looked at Keisha with raised eyebrows. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "Says he has something you need to hear." In walked a teenage boy. Thin. Hoodie pulled low over his eyes. He held a USB drive tightly in one hand, like it might vanish if he let go. "My name's Malik," he said. "I'm the one who filmed what happened in the parking lot." Keisha's heart skipped. "You were there?" "I was skating nearby. I saw when he grabbed you. I recorded the whole thing, from the time he pulled in to the moment they shoved you in the car." He placed the drive on the table. "And I uploaded it last night. It's got 8 million views. People know what happened now. And they're pissed." Erica connected the drive and pulled up the footage. Keisha watched silently, the tremble in the boy's camera. The clear audio. Tanner's smirk, his hand on her back. The way her voice didn't waver, even as the situation escalated. It wasn't just incriminating, it was undeniable. "This could burn them down," Erica said. "If it's verified, there's no spinning this." But the door hadn't even closed behind Malik when another call came through. Erica answered, and her face went pale. "Tanner filed an official assault complaint against you this morning. They're fast-tracking it. You've got a court date in 48 hours. Keisha clenched her fists. "They're trying to flip the script. Not just that. They're leaking a sealed juvenile file, saying you once assaulted a student during your amateur boxing years. Totally off record, completely irrelevant, but they're painting you as violent." "So what do we do?" Erica stood up. "We flip it right back. We go public with Malik's footage, full version. Uncut. But more than that, we release your real record, your accolades. Your global fights, your gold medals. You fought for this country more than half those men ever did. It's time they knew exactly who they tried to humiliate. Keisha looked at Malik, then at Erica, and nodded. Let's make it impossible for them to bury the truth. That afternoon, the internet lit up again. A new video appeared titled, "Full Footage. Officer Tanner Harasses World Champion Fighter." It exploded. Clips circulated across TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. News anchors played it on loops. Talk show hosts debated it live. But nothing compared to the live stream that followed. Keisha sat at a desk, flanked by Erica and two civil rights attorneys. She looked straight into the camera. My name is Keisha Monroe. I'm a 5-time world kickboxing champion, a 2-time Olympic medalist. And 3 nights ago, a man with a badge tried to intimidate me like I was no one. Not because I broke a law, but because he thought I didn't matter. But I do. And so do the voices of every woman who's ever been silenced, dismissed, or arrested for saying, "Don't touch me." This isn't just about me. This is about justice. She paused, voice steady. To Officer Tanner, this is the last time you hide behind a uniform. The next day, Tanner's name trended globally. But it was no longer about his authority. It was about what he did when he thought no one would see. They thought she'd be silent. Instead, she roared. And the watch? They started making calls. Because now, they were the ones being hunted. The moment the unedited video went viral, everything shifted. News vans parked outside the LAPD headquarters. Protesters grew louder, bolder. But inside a steel glass building 2 blocks from City Hall, a quieter storm was brewing. Keisha sat in a private room with Erica and 2 civil rights lawyers. Malik's video was playing on loop in the background, but Keisha wasn't watching. Her eyes were fixed on a printed report just delivered to her by a whistleblower, an internal personnel file marked confidential. Across the top, Lieutenant Ethan Briggs. Erica tapped the folder. This is who Tanner answers to now, and guess what? Briggs was under investigation for excessive force in Oakland, San Diego, and Phoenix. Every time the case disappeared right before charges were filed. How? Keisha asked, her voice low but firm. Same strategy, said Jamal, the older of the 2 attorneys. Witnesses drop out. Evidence mysteriously goes missing. It's a pattern. But the common thread in each city is this. Briggs arrives, and complaints spike. Then, like clockwork, he's promoted. Keisha leaned back in her chair, letting the pieces settle. So Tanner's not just a bad cop. He's protected. Groomed. More like deployed, Erica added. And if Briggs is who we think he is, then he's part of a much bigger operation. We've been hearing whispers about an unofficial unit inside departments. A kind of brotherhood. They call themselves the Watch. Jamal nodded. A shadow chain of command. Hidden behind protocol, they use reassignment like erasers, wipe the record, move the players. Keisha looked at the ceiling for a long beat, then stood. Then we don't just expose Tanner. We go after the whole damn Watch. Erica looked up. You're sure? I didn't come this far to pull back now. They started digging immediately. Malik, now practically living at the firm's office, joined in. He was quick with code, and even faster at finding digital fingerprints. Within hours, he found forum threads and private chat logs, posts under anonymous handles bragging about teaching compliance, sharing surveillance blind spots, and encouraging each other to control the narrative before it controls you. One username stood out, eBriggs75. Keisha leaned over Malik's shoulder. That's him. They matched posts to known case dates. It lined up too perfectly to ignore. The deeper they went, the clearer it became. The Watch wasn't just a boys' club. It was a method, a network embedded inside multiple precincts across the country, and they had been operating untouched for years. But then an unexpected call came in. Erica picked up and went stiff. She handed the phone to Keisha without a word. A woman's voice came through, quiet but clear. "My name's Danielle. I used to serve in LAPD. I saw what happened to you. It happened to me, too, in 2014. Keisha's voice softened. "What happened?" "Briggs. He followed me during a night shift, said I was too mouthy, cornered me in a locker room. I reported it, and 3 days later, I was fired for insubordination." Keisha clenched her jaw. "I have recordings," Danielle said. "Emails. They won't be admissible in court, but if the world hears them..." "We want them," Keisha said. "We'll make sure everyone hears." The next 48 hours moved fast. Erica's team released a statement to the press revealing new evidence linking senior officers to a coordinated abuse cover-up. Danielle's voice recording was played in snippets across national radio shows. Her tearful story went viral. And suddenly, Keisha wasn't alone anymore. Other women started coming forward. An EMT from Compton, a former police cadet from Oakland, a traffic officer from Arizona. Each story eerily similar. The news cycle couldn't keep up. And that's when it happened. At 2:12 a.m., a brick crashed through the window of Erica's office. Attached was a note. "Silence is survival. Ask her if she can still fight." Keisha stood beside the shattered glass, breathing slow and even. The old instincts returned, not from fear, but from resolve. "Let them come," she whispered. But Erica didn't share her calm. "This is getting dangerous. These aren't idle threats anymore. They're watching you." Keisha didn't blink. "Then I hope they're paying attention." The following morning, Keisha made another move, one they didn't expect. She walked straight into the lobby of the LAPD Internal Affairs Office, flanked by her legal team and a documentary crew. She requested to speak, and they couldn't stop her. Standing before a wall of cameras, Keisha stared into the lenses with fire in her voice. "I'm not here to be pitied. I'm not here to ask for fairness. I'm here to demand accountability. There's a system protecting predators in uniform. You all know it. You've all seen it, and I'm not afraid of any of you." The footage aired on national TV that night. Keisha's image lit up screens in homes across America. And in a dark room downtown, Lieutenant Ethan Briggs paused the broadcast. His smile faded, because now the woman he tried to bury had pulled the entire system into the light. The storm hit just before noon. Keisha was meeting with her attorneys when Erica's phone lit up with a breaking alert. Her eyes scanned the screen, then widened. "They're denying everything," she said. "LAPD just issued a public statement calling your claims inflammatory and baseless. And get this, Tanner has filed a countercomplaint, says he's the one being harassed." Keisha didn't flinch. "That's their move. They always push back harder when they're cornered." But then Erica scrolled down. "It gets worse. Briggs was just named acting head of internal oversight. They promoted him." The room went silent. "That's not possible," Jamal muttered. "They're putting the wolf in charge of the henhouse." Keisha stood up slowly, her jaw tight. "They're testing me, testing how far I'll go." And she was ready to show them. That evening, she went live on national television. She sat across from veteran journalist Elaine Porter, known for her fearless interviews and no-nonsense style. Cameras rolled as Elaine asked the question everyone was thinking. "Keisha, what gives you the right to accuse not one, but multiple officers and departments of corruption?" Keisha met her gaze head-on. "What gives them the right to assault, silence, and erase women just because they wear a badge? I'm not accusing them. I'm exposing them, and I brought receipts." She slid a folder across the table. Emails, photos, transcripts, timestamps, all meticulously organized. Elaine hesitated, then opened it live on air. "And read." Keisha's voice didn't shake once. "I've got proof Officer Tanner harassed me. I've got proof Lieutenant Briggs protected him. I've got audio, video, and witness statements from other victims who were threatened, fired, or discredited. And now the system that's supposed to investigate them is being run by them." Elaine paused. "Do you think this is enough to bring them down?" Keisha didn't blink. "No, but it's enough to wake people up." That interview went viral. Overnight, the hashtag #ShockJustice for Keisha exploded across platforms. Celebrities reposted her story. Former officers came out of retirement to speak on record. One woman, a retired sergeant named Maria Valdez, contacted Erica directly. "I worked under Briggs back in '07. He wasn't just a problem. He trained them to be problems." Maria handed over a hard drive containing archived emails and internal chat logs. Hidden within them were references to Unit 41, a coded name for an off-the-books group that handled discipline within the department. It was the Watch, and it had a playbook. The next day, Keisha's legal team filed a formal federal complaint. Within hours, the FBI contacted them. Special Agent Darren Cole was assigned to review the material. He was sharp, calm, and not the type to be intimidated. He met Keisha in person, sitting across from her in a private room inside a federal building downtown. "I've seen some of this before," he said quietly. "But it never stuck. Too many hands in the system, too many blind eyes." "Not this time," Keisha replied. "This time the whole world is watching." Cole nodded. "We're going to need you to testify, not just about what happened in the parking lot. About the pattern, the structure." Keisha folded her hands. "I'm not afraid to speak. But I need protection, and so do the other women who came forward. You'll have it." By week's end, a federal inquiry into LAPD corruption was launched. Briggs released a statement calling the allegations fiction crafted by a fame-seeker with a grudge. It backfired. 2 new victims came forward within 24 hours, both with nearly identical stories. One had text messages. The other, a hospital report. Erica gathered them in a secure location and set up interviews with reputable outlets. Keisha stayed by their side, not as a figurehead, but as a fellow survivor. "This isn't about revenge," she told one reporter. "This is about rewriting the rules for every woman who thought she had to stay quiet to survive." But the pressure escalated. That night, Keisha returned to her temporary apartment to find the lock tampered with. Nothing stolen, just a chilling reminder. "We're watching you." Erica demanded she relocate again. Keisha agreed, but not before leaving a message. On her social media, she posted a close-up of her black training gloves, the same ones she wore the night Tanner grabbed her. Caption: "I was trained to take hits, not to take silence." It blew up. Again. The media frenzy couldn't be controlled anymore. Briggs attempted damage control, appearing on a local news channel to defend himself. "She has a history of aggression," he said. "You don't become a world champion without getting used to violence." That's when the real twist dropped. Malik, still scouring forums and files, uncovered a buried video, old surveillance from a gym in Oakland 7 years prior. In the background, you could hear Briggs talking to a trainee. "You see her?" he said, nodding at a young fighter on the mat. "She's dangerous. Mark my words, if she ever makes it big, it'll be hell to control her." The camera panned briefly. The fighter was unmistakably Keisha. He had known exactly who she was. All this time, he didn't arrest her because she was a stranger. He harassed her because he remembered and feared her power. Keisha stared at the footage in silence. Now we prove intent, Erica said. No, Keisha said. Now we prove war. By the time the sun rose over Los Angeles the next morning, Keisha's name was on every major news outlet in the country. CNN opened with a panel titled "The Fighter Who Fought Back." MSNBC ran a headline, "World Champion Turns Whistleblower." Even conservative networks begrudgingly acknowledged that something serious was happening. But while the media was focused on Keisha, the system she was exposing was moving in the dark. Briggs had disappeared. After his disastrous TV appearance, he failed to report for duty. LAPD issued a vague statement that he was on personal leave. But Keisha wasn't buying it. "He's not hiding," she told Erica. "He's repositioning." Sure enough, 2 days later, someone attempted to break into the federal evidence storage unit. The alarm was triggered, but the assailant escaped. Surveillance footage showed a figure in maintenance gear, but the face was blurred. Keisha sat with Agent Cole, reviewing the tape. "That's him," she said. "You sure?" "I don't forget the way a coward moves." Cole sighed. "If he's trying to destroy evidence, it means he knows we're close." That same day, a flash drive was anonymously delivered to the building where Keisha's legal team was operating. No note. No return address. Inside was something that chilled everyone to the bone. A folder labeled Doctrine. It contained internal communications between members of the Watch, emails, directives, and audio recordings. One file was simply titled Control. When Erica clicked play, the room went silent. Briggs's voice echoed from the speaker. "You don't break people by shouting. You break them by making them feel alone. You isolate. You discredit. Then you clean it up." Another voice chimed in. "Tanner's. We've done it before. It works." They scream. We wait. Nobody listens to noise. Keisha stood up, arms folded, lips pressed tight. "They forgot one thing," she said. "This noise has backup." That night she returned to the same rooftop where she had first heard the city stir in protest. But now it wasn't just noise. It was thunder. Below her, streets were flooded with people. Women holding signs, men wearing t-shirts that read, "I stand with Keisha." Families. Veterans. Survivors. The crowd had grown from hundreds to tens of thousands. And now, they weren't just chanting her name, they were demanding reform. Inside City Hall, officials scrambled. The mayor called for an emergency meeting with federal investigators. The district attorney, once silent, publicly announced a grand jury would review the evidence against Officer Tanner and any associated personnel. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. Back at Keisha's safe house, a call came in on the encrypted line. The voice on the other end was hushed, trembling. "My name's Darnell. I used to work in tech for LAPD. I've seen things they told me to erase. I didn't. I kept copies." He forwarded a secure link. It led to a hidden server filled with archived videos, internal chat logs, and disciplinary complaints that had been scrubbed from public records. One video stood out. It showed a training seminar from 5 years ago. Briggs was leading it. He gestured to a whiteboard filled with scenarios. "Here's how you flip the narrative. You make them the aggressor. You document just enough resistance to justify force. You learn the legal terms: non-compliant, erratic, hostile. It's a language. Speak it well, and you can cover anything." The room of recruits laughed. Keisha didn't. "We drop this," Jamal said, "and the city burns." "Then let it burn," Keisha replied. "Let the truth burn everything they built to protect themselves." They uploaded the video that same night. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. But the twist came when someone posted anonymously in the thread below the video. "If you think Briggs is the top, you haven't looked high enough. Follow the chain, he's just the muscle." The message was cryptic, but Erica traced the account to a burner device that had pinged once from inside the Department of Justice building downtown. They were being watched, but they were also being helped. The deeper they dug, the more it became clear. This wasn't just about LAPD. This was a network, a web that stretched across departments, jurisdictions, even states. Keisha stared at the evidence board, every face connected with strings and scribbled notes. Briggs, Tanner. Former captains, a deputy DA. "This isn't a scandal," she whispered. "It's a structure." Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a voicemail. No caller ID. A man's voice. "You think you've won? You've got followers. Fans, but we've got decades of silence behind us. You're just a fighter." "You don't scare us." Keisha saved the message. Then she looked at Erica, her voice calm but ice cold. "They should be scared. Because I haven't started fighting yet." The courtroom was packed, journalists lining the back wall, protesters gathered outside chanting Keisha's name, and officers stationed at every entrance. The tension was thick enough to choke on. After months of silence, smears, and secrets clawing their way to the surface, today was the day it all came to a head. Keisha sat at the plaintiff's table, her face calm, posture upright, hands folded in her lap. She wore no jewelry, no makeup, just a black blazer and quiet resolve. To her left sat Erica, and next to her, U.S. Attorney Nathan Reyes, who had stepped in after the DOJ launched its formal civil rights investigation. Across the aisle, Briggs slouched at the defense table, his face pale but defiant, flanked by 2 attorneys and a PR handler who looked like she hadn't slept in days. Judge Hammond entered the room with a sharp bang of the gavel. His eyes scanned the courtroom, settling briefly on Keisha, before turning to Briggs with a weight that could crush. "Let's begin," he said. "This court will hear opening arguments in the matter of Keisha Hayes versus Officer Ethan Briggs and related parties." The prosecution wasted no time. Reyes stood, his tone even but cutting. "For too long," he said, "certain individuals within law enforcement have operated with impunity, protected not by justice but by silence. But silence is not the law. It is not a shield, and today it ends." He presented clips from the leaked doctrine folder, videos of Briggs coaching officers on how to fabricate resistance, how to manipulate body cams, how to humiliate civilians and call it procedure. The room was silent as the footage played. When it was the defense's turn, Briggs's lawyer attempted to shift blame. "My client," he said, "was following department policy. He may have used poor judgment, but the intent was never malicious. We must separate personal feelings from legal facts." Keisha stood up before Reyes could respond. "I'd like to speak," she said. The judge hesitated. "Ms. Hayes, you understand this is unusual." "I do." "But so is being groped in a parking lot by someone who took an oath to protect me." A murmur rippled through the room. The judge nodded slowly. "Proceed." Keisha walked to the center of the courtroom. She looked at Briggs. Then she looked at the jury. "I didn't come forward because I wanted attention. I came forward because I was tired of pretending that being quiet makes you safe. I've fought in cages, won titles, but nothing prepared me for what it feels like to have your body, your dignity, your name treated like property by someone who thinks his badge makes him untouchable." She paused. You could hear a pin drop. "I didn't speak out just for me. I spoke out for every woman too afraid to press charges, for every black person who's been told, don't make it worse, for every fighter who's been knocked down and told to stay there." She turned to the judge. You asked for facts. Here they are. The system failed. But I didn't. As she walked back to her seat, Briggs's eyes dropped to the floor. He didn't look up again. 2 days later, the verdict came in. Guilty on all counts. Briggs was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison without parole. He was also stripped of all law enforcement certifications. Tanner, his former captain, was indicted on obstruction charges. The entire division was placed under federal oversight, and the doctrine they'd built their abuse on, publicly dismantled. But the real impact came weeks later. Keisha returned to the gym where it all started, not to fight, to teach. A group of young girls, black, Latina, white, Asian, stood in front of her, gloves on, eyes wide. First lesson, she said, you never let anyone decide your worth. One of the girls raised her hand. Ms. Hayes, were you scared when it all happened? Keisha smiled. I was terrified, she said, but I fought anyway. That's what makes it worth it. Outside, murals of her had popped up on city walls, her face bruised but fierce under the words, She fought back. A national fund was launched in her name, providing legal support for victims of police misconduct. Erica helped oversee it. Malik, the teenager who had filmed the incident, was awarded a journalism scholarship. The world didn't change overnight, but it shifted, and Keisha. She stayed in the fight, not with fists, but with her voice, her platform, and a truth that couldn't be silenced. So to those still watching, still doubting, still wondering if one voice can make a difference, remember this. She didn't just fight for herself. She fought for all of us. If this story moved you, share it. Speak up, stand tall. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. The fight's not over, but together, we're stronger.